ready? Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Call the meeting to order. The Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. As a preliminary matter, this is Donald Davenport, Chair of the Hampden Board of Selectmen. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Mary Ellen Glover.
Present.
Tom Flynn.
Present.
Robert Markle.
Present.
Pam Courtney.
Yes.
Mark Langone.
Yes.
Ed Poulin.
Yes.
Wendell Hulbert.
Not on.
He may not have the new number.
Excuse me?
He probably doesn't have that new number.
Okay, Rebecca Moriarty.
Present.
I see her. And Chief Farnsworth?
I'm here.
There, okay. So good evening. This is an open meeting of the Hampden Board of Selectmen is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as a reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Hampden Board of Selectmen is convening using Zoom video conferencing as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join.
I'm at a meeting. I'm listening to a meeting.
The first, we have a number of minutes to go through. Is the board prepared to do that?
Can they hear me? Oh, you're just listening? Or...
But then it's muted.
Minutes?
Sure. Which one's first on?
First one we got February 18th.
But I turned off the video.
Why?
February 18th, 2020.
I don't need them to see me, or we'll see everything going on in the house.
I wasn't able to check the past minutes because I don't know where they are, but I thought that John had said last week that we had approved February 18th, February 24th, March 2nd, and March 9th.
You can text it.
He said that was the last one, I thought, but I couldn't find where, because I don't have the other minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I thought we approved some minutes at the last meeting. These new ones just came in this week.
Yeah.
We did something maybe early February last week, Pam. Something like that.
You did, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. And they were posted. They're posted now.
Yeah.
Let me get a schedule together tomorrow of everything we've got. I'll send it out in one email.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got
Okay.
everything that's current and you can have the week to review them. Does that work?
All right. All right with the board?
That works. Yeah.
Mary Ellen?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
We're trying
All
the
right.
new system tonight, Bob.
Yes,
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
we are recording using Otter.
Oh.
I did try it out on Saturday. It worked.
All right. So let's move right to the next item. So we'll do them. So Pam, you'll send that out, and then next week we'll take care of all these minutes and
Yes.
get them done with. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep.
Excuse me. Budget review with the department heads. Where would you like to begin?
Well, what were the department heads? At the last meeting, I had suggested that we ask the departments to come forward with the regular budget and then a 5% reduction in budget, what that would entail, just for the point of discussion and to have on record. I'm wondering if that's the direction that they got or what they're coming in tonight to prepare to do.
I told them tonight that they should be prepared to make reductions.
And to bring us a list.
I use the word significant reductions.
Oh,
Well, it's kind of I don't know that I heard that was a directive of our board. I think
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't, no. That's why I didn't put a number on it, but I just thought it's likely that there's going to be a request for significant reductions.
I think there's an opportunity to discuss the budgets with the different boards to see if there's any opportunity for savings. I think I've seen good back and forth with our financial team. Cliff bringing up some good questions, Don with some good salient response to it, really talking about where we stand going forward. The big thing, as I mentioned last time, is we're worried about a reduction in state aid. Clearly, the state is going to be hurting in the coming fiscal year. But the reality is that state aid represents 5% of our revenues. The cherry shoe, if you will, really doesn't bring a significant part in. Real estate taxes does, and I think the board has been cognizant of the fact that people may have difficulty making those tax payments in the future. And that's why we're looking at, is there an opportunity to make savings in the budget coming forward? I think in conversations with the advisory committee, looking at the growth coming out, the biggest thing obviously is the ambulance contract. Everything else has been, I would say, and Don, correct me if I'm wrong, mostly contractual at this point,
Yeah,
except for the ambulance.
contractual,
Been fairly,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, and then in the 2.5% for the non-bargaining unit
Right,
people.
right. Pretty similar.
The ambulance is the big expense right now.
Right. If there's a chance for.
And of course, we also have the increase in the Hampden County, retirement pension. I think 10,000 in insurance and 14,000 in benefits. So those are the kind of the numbers that changed.
I think,
But
I think,
if we want to,
I
go ahead,
think
Mary
that,
Ellen.
I think that we don't know what the future holds. And I think that my preference is that each department come in with a list of, this is where I would go next if I had to. I'm not saying that we're at the I had to point at by any shape, but I think we should all know where that I had to point is going to be. So if the state doesn't do as some people have projected, or does more or does less, also I'm concerned not about fiscal 21, but about fiscal 22, where I really think there will be a problem. And I think we should have a kitty or a savings account or a rainy day account or whatever you want to say and call it, so that we have something to fall back on. We've always been very frugal and handled our money very well, and I think that should continue. But I do think that we had to have people start thinking about this and what direction would we go if we had to. And if you don't put that down in writing, you don't have it. I mean, you're just talking.
So
one of the
Ed,
new
go ahead, Bob.
I just wanted to point out that the new legislation allows 1/12 budgets each month if the town is unable to have an annual town meeting. The problem with that is not resolved is that a 1/12 budget presumably would not permit any contractual changes or increases. I'm not sure that that's constitutional. And that is certainly not yet resolved in Boston.
I think it actually would, Bob, because you look at some of the large expenditures, and if those were, so to speak, back-ended instead of front-ended. For instance, we pay, I think, county retirement up at the beginning because we get a percentage discount
Yeah.
to pay it. If we decide not to take that percentage, and Don, maybe 1-2% because we prepay, okay, fine, push it off to the end of the fiscal year. That's $500,000 or whatever it is that we're not paying up front. That's a sizable part of the budget that I think would more than offset any contractual stuff. You could easily live with the 1/12 if you did that.
I mean,
And the thing is-
what I'm saying is that if we do a 1/12, then we have to pay those under contract the same wage as we had paid in fiscal 20. I'm not sure it's constitutional to violate the contract like that.
I don't know if you can say 1/12 or you're just not expending more than 1/12 of your total budget. That's what I'm saying. You see where I'm going there?
Probably, yeah, I see what you're going, yeah.
Right. So for instance, the amount of money that's in the budget for paving may not actually be spent in all of the first 6 months. Some might be the first 6 months, some the second 6 months. So you might have opportunity for shifting and cover the 112. And I think
Well,
then your point is that,
let's hear what the department heads have to say, if how they feel, what if they have any ideas for reduction. I want to start off with Mark.
Okay.
Any thoughts?
Good evening, Don. And I just did the math real quick. So 5% of my budget would be 44,385. And that's going to be on my proposed fiscal year 21. The only place I may be able to shave some off is on the actual highway paving account. But other than that, I'm looking real quick here. And that's what I had done last year. I had shaved everything down in order to make that department payroll account.
yeah, one thing I had suggested to the board is that Mark has two things. He has a warrant article for a replacement truck, which I think should be pushed off to the fall or even next year. And in chatting with Mark, that won't impact him at all, right, Mark?
Correct.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, what did you say? I missed what you said.
Okay, there's a warrant article. And
Yeah, I
think
got
the
that
board
part.
the board was agreed that we would pare the warrant down in terms of money articles for just the, so to speak, as Donna said, the boilerplate ones, and any extraordinary ones we put off. Correct. And I think
So the pickup truck was 47,000, right?
right, but that was not part of the budget per se. That was a separate warrant article. So it really doesn't represent a deduction in the highway department budget. So the only, as Mark said, the only significant place to get a savings would be in the payroll account, in the paving account.
Right.
The board could take the position that fund it at 200,000 with a look ahead towards adding the other 50,000 back in with free cash or a subsequent time in the coming fiscal year. It's not like Mark spends the entire paving money in the first months. Some is after the first, and that would be one option to achieve the reduction with an eye towards restoration.
Right. I think that that's reasonable. I mean, I think that he has a place where he could find that if it was essential, if there was nothing else you could do. And I always think you have an eye to the future to say, okay, how could we get that money back, or what can we do down the road? So that seems very reasonable to me. I would compliment Mark on the budget that he handed in. I thought it was very thorough, and the breakdown was easy to understand, and I thought it was excellent. So I would compliment him on that.
Thank you, Mary Ellen.
Thanks, Mark. Ed Poulin? Any thoughts on your budget?
Could I ask just one other thing that I forgot?
Yep.
You said street sweeping had a new mandate, and it was like MS5 or something like that, M54 or something. I can't remember. What was that, Mark? We had to go up because we had a new mandate?
Yeah, so exactly. In year 2 of the permit, it required the cities and towns to sweep their streets a second time during that year. So in the fall, basically in the fall time, and that's only the permitted area of the town, which is the west side, if you will, from say Wilbraham Road straight across Summers Road, everything west. So I had mapped that out last year and figured it would be one sweeper for 1 week to total. That's 1 week being 5 days total. And I had the number here, but it was
okay. Like, I got the idea. Yeah,
5,700 or thereabouts, 5,600. Let me just see. No, it was even 6,000.
right.
Increase on that mandate.
Okay.
And unfortunately, there's
There's
nothing
nothing you can do about it.
do
Right,
about it.
right, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're
All right,
welcome.
Ed,
Yes.
go ahead. Any thoughts?
I don't know. The fire department honestly has been in the red the last 3 years in a row. One thought that maybe we could possibly do, if anything, in our training stipend is maybe do less training. I don't recommend that, but if things to that we will have to discuss somehow. I've already went through the budget and needed requirements such as hose test and certifications for NFPA regulations. What I've done there is I was able to take out the radio maintenance payment amount. We also get rid of the rent of for the tower that we're on Mountain Road because of our new going in. So I figured to cover the of those two certification and a host test. Again, we've been in the red the last 2 or 3 years, so if we want cuts, we have to make cuts. Will happen some. It's just there's for a service you can buy, be some ramification.
In the past couple of years, we've seen increased expenses with fleet maintenance, if you will, if we call it that way, Ed, where obviously because the trucks are more complicated, when they go down to the vendor, typically Bulldog, these repairs are not $50. You flip open the truck, you're looking at a jet engine, basically. So when they go down there, the repair can be quite significant. We've increased that line item over the past couple of years, and I think they've done a pretty good job of maintaining the cost in that department, looking at savings in other line items where we can do what they call line-to-line transfers within the typical year. But I think right now, the fire department has a very lean budget. If you look at the projected increase, Ed, I think it's only salary and that's it. You've taken care of, with the savings, you've taken care of the other shortfalls.
Our operation budget is only $44,000. That's pretty slim for what the equipment we have, what we operate. We have a lot of call firefighters that do a lot of volunteer work, helping us out to a minimum. We did switch. We mentioned Bulldog as a service provider for our truck. We did switch to another company that was a little cheaper for our maintenance, able to there. It's called On Scene. They've been good. They come out right. So we saved a little bit of money using them, and we don't take cost of fuel to drive a truck or ship.
I could mention that Ed's not coming in clearly on mine. Is that happening to everybody? Or is that?
It may be that you're too
right.
close to the speaker, Ed.
Okay.
I get a little bit of an echo. I think we all get an echo if we're too close to the microphone.
Okay. And the other comment I had asked last week, and I would ask again, if you could get for me or for the whole board entirely, I guess, an overview of your staffing. You know, because I don't exactly understand the auxiliary and the reserves and everything else. You know, I mean, so if I just had a feel for what that was, like for example, you have 3 full-time people at the top, and then you have the supervisors at the bottom, I guess. But it would just help me just so that I understood the fire department a little better. If when you get a minute, I could have an overview of that. I don't need it right now, but you know.
No, I could do that. So you just want specifically.
I want to know all the staffing. What the people who the staffing is. Why is one a sergeant? You know, like it seems like we have a lot of officers, and it just seems like a lot of different people, and that I'm not aware of. So I would just like a more awareness of how the fire department operates, staffing wise.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ed, I did convey to the advisory committee that $3,000 for your EMS supplies should stay in.
Okay. Again, obviously, if the town needs us to cut, we'll find it somewhere. It's just,
Well, we don't know.
break their big, basically a big repair bill.
Okay. All right. Thank
Thank
you. Rebecca, are you on?
I am.
Go
Hi, all.
ahead.
Hi.
So budget cuts are no stranger to me, having been here for so long. And my being 1% of the total town budget gives me a small number to start with. But a 5% cut to the senior center budget would be about $9,700. I know that with all of the other department heads that are going to speak tonight, any cuts that we make would be detrimental and would impact the services that we're able to provide to the town. So it's difficult to go through and say where cuts can be made. However, the budget that I had submitted for next year was very, very lean. It didn't have any additional increases other than the 2.5% for staff and a 2.5% increase in the building maintenance line item. So the staffing 2.5% increase would take about $3,150 out of the budget. After that, I could look at taking a little bit of money out of our expense line. We would go without probably some training and office supplies or things of that nature if we took money out of expenses. But after that, after you reach that point, you know, that's only cutting about 3,000 out. And if I need to cut 9,000, then I'm definitely going to have to cut staff. Staff and hours at the building, perhaps. So that would be an impact on the services that we're able to provide. And we have been doing some pretty significant services through this coronavirus deal. I think that, you know, 5% would be a heavy hit for us. The other thing that I want to mention is that one of my staff, the activities coordinator, is funded by the formula grant, which comes from the state. And there is already certainly word from the state that the formula grant for next year might be drastically reduced. And so I'm already looking at losing part of my staff just because that's not a town funded position. It's only funded by the formula grant. So I'm already headed for a reduction in that grant. I haven't heard whether or not Title III funding would be affected. If Title III is reduced, then that will cause a reduction in the number of hours that the outreach coordinator can work. And that's a pretty major position at the center as far as benefits are concerned. So again, like Ed and Mark both said already, if we have to make the cut, we find it somewhere, but it will definitely be salary and positions at the senior center.
Becky, the formula grant person is what's their position?
They're the program coordinator.
Oh yeah.
And does the senior center charge fees for any of their services?
There are fees for certain services, but not all of them.
And are those bringing a significant amount of money for your operation, or?
They do not. So any income that comes in is typically for a class membership, like a fee for classes. And so that goes back to pay the instructor. We don't make any money on, I mean, we don't make a significant amount of money on class fees and things of that nature.
Okay.
Now, to change the subject, so tomorrow you're giving out meals on wheels, I guess, but you have to bring your own wheels.
Yes. Yep. So tomorrow we're starting grab and go meals sponsored by Greater Springfield Senior Services. So we've had 57 people sign up for meals tomorrow. And the newsletter hasn't gotten into every home yet. That should be out on Thursday in the Wilbraham Hampden Times. So we expect that number to grow. But we are doing grab and go meals Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
That's a great idea.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Ricky. Chief Farnsworth?
Good evening.
Evening.
I just want to make sure that I let Becky know that none of my officers should be grabbing meals, so turn them away.
I will do.
The obviously looking at our budget, we've got about just shy of 85% of our budget is salary based. So you know, any real significant savings, and we're talking 5%, we're talking over $82,000 that we would have to cut out of the budget. So to be able to do that anyway, you know, with any impact, would require reopening the contract and renegotiating points with the unions, because the you know, the pay and benefits are all tied in through contracts and union negotiations. So you know, we definitely have to look there if we're going to try to get to 5%. You know, and you know, there's a little bit of money we could you know, we could take a little bit out of training. I'm very hesitant. One of the largest points of a lawsuit against the community is for a failure to train law enforcement and a community being sued because of the actions of an officer. So, you know, so I take training pretty seriously and make sure that we keep everybody as trained as possible, because it is the single largest point of liability for any community, skimping on law enforcement training. So, I mean, when I talk about cutting there, I could probably cut $5,000-$6,000 there, reduce a little bit of training, kind of put some recertifications off for a year, things like that. You know, we could defer a cruiser until the fall and see what type of position we may or may not be in the fall. Delaying one altogether, like John, you're well aware, we've done that in the past, and then we get behind the 8 ball, and it ends up being much more expensive playing catch up down the road. But you know, there's a 3 to 4 month lead time when you order them anyway. So you know, we could wait to the fall. You know, that would save about you know, $44,000. And
Chief, that might help us. That might help us on the 1/12 thing, and that's what I'm thinking. Just
Right.
get us over the hump until we see how the state picture settles out.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't be spending that money then really January if we
Right.
appropriate it in the fall, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And
You know,
free cash probably.
yeah, we've done that, you know, a number of times in the past, and I wouldn't see any reason why we couldn't do that again in this case. But I mean, really beyond
we have
that,
interference. Can we ask everyone who was not speaking to mute themselves? Because we have a lot of background interference right now.
What you see with this is less supplies and higher prices. And whether we're only beef, pork, chicken, lamb, whatever
I guess somebody's listening to the news or the TV.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, so
How many, Chief, how many cruisers do we have on the road at one time?
like during the day today, there were 4.
Okay, and so we have 6 cruisers, so that means we have 2 others.
Yes.
One in as a reserve and one maybe that you drive or somebody else drives, or?
Yeah, they cycle through, so that way they're all not running 24/7, 365, or we've done that in the past, and we replace them a lot quicker, and our maintenance goes up considerably.
So normally, how many do you have on the road? Do you have 4 normally, or do you have 2 to 4, or 3 to 4?
Yeah, 2 to 4, depending on who's working, days off, vacations, you know, whatever else is going on.
Okay.
So it does vary.
You know my interest in cruisers, but I'm familiar with Springfield, and they run their cruisers 150 to 200,000 miles before they trade them in.
Yeah,
and we're certainly nowhere near that, and we don't want to be near that. But I think a cruiser would be one thing to be in the bunch of things to be considered. If we have to go that route, we have to go that route. You know.
You know, I understand that, and we do. Typically, when we turn a car in, we're over 100,000 miles, and you know, we don't also have the depth of. You know, Springfield's well over 100 cars, so if one goes down, there's always a backup. You know, we don't have that depth, unfortunately.
Right, right.
Fortunately, we don't need that depth, I should say.
Right.
So any significant, cuts would definitely have to have the board enter into contract renegotiations with the union to make any significant impact in it when, 85% of the budget is made up by contractual obligations.
Right.
How about like upkeep on the cruisers? Could the town garage do any of that work, or are they so loaded that they can't possibly do it, or they're not skilled in that area? Because sometimes town garages and police department work together on cruiser maintenance.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I can't speak for Mark, but I don't know if he has anybody up there that has the certifications to work on them. I think, if these were our cars of old, that a lot of us could have worked on them in the driveway. Now
Right.
they're so computerized that they're ridiculous.
Well, I'm just trying to think of, what are some creative ways we can get the same thing done for less money or whatever. But put that in your bag of tricks. And
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm open to anything that we can do. So anything beyond that, we're talking about contract renegotiations or reduction in personnel, without question. On a side note, I don't know if anybody saw the State News House service today, but there have been some discussions going on for the past few days, and Standard & Poor's rated Massachusetts economic position regarding to the COVID-19 crisis is very good. We had a high rating, and the state is liquid enough not to have any issues with any payments to cities and towns for the coming year. There was also a meeting this weekend with Congressman Neal and the governor and a few other people there, and I guess the next round of monies coming out of the federal government will be directly to cities and towns. So that's encouraging for at least a year to come.
yeah.
Thank you. Bob, who else do we have?
I thought I saw the building inspector, and just so I can make it clear to everybody, everyone is muted except the selectman and the speaker. If you want to speak, there's a hand raising function. Just raise the hand and you'll get recognized.
Hey,
Okay.
Don, if we could take a minute though. I do know Lori has to leave. Is there any chance to have her present and then she can?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Fine.
That's right.
We're gonna jump off the budget for a minute and go to Laurie about the public health nurse.
Okay, Lori.
Yeah,
you.
The phone number.
Okay, there you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So I did forward to Jane, I think, and forwarded to the board just a proposal that was put out by Jill Cancelino, who is our part-time public health nurse for the town of Wilbraham, and she was interested in putting together a full-time position for the town of Hampden and Wilbraham in order to provide the services that I think both towns really need to take a look at as far as public health nursing. I think the fact that this whole COVID thing really brought up the amount of work that is necessary to really do an effective job is certainly on the top of my mind every day. And this COVID, even though that we might start opening up our services and facilities, one of the things that are going to continue is some of this COVID responsibilities that the towns are going to be responsible for tracing and for following and for for doing all that we need to do. Then the opportunity that we may, by wintertime, have a vaccine, then that's going to be another whole round of necessity that a public health nurse would need. And I know it's not ever anything that the towns, feel is a priority in most instances. But the fact that we have not had a public health nurse ever to fulfill those duties, we kind of run by the seat of our pants, and when it comes to important issues like this, that's not something we should be doing. We should really have somebody on board that has the knowledge, the education, the experience, and the ability to handle patients that come through our town, and not just following the COVID stuff, but following all communicable diseases. We've had, I think, the fact whether it was, maybe a possible outbreak of measles or a meningitis or whatever the case might be. These are serious issues that the town should have that go-to person who's always available and is able to handle those situations. The public health nurse can also work very closely with the senior center to provide those types of services that might be needed. And so she didn't really come out with what she's thinking as far as a cost to the towns at this point. But I think if that's something that the town is interested in taking a look at, then we can certainly come through with that information at some point, whenever you might need it. I'm not sure.
All right. Thank you. Well, I just received the proposal late this afternoon. But I think it's certainly something for the board to consider in the near future.
Very good.
Any comment from the board members?
Just what's the proposed cost? What do you think a budget is going to be, Lori? Something like that.
I would just be guessing. So how you would handle it too with the towns and the size of the towns, and does one town pay a little bit more than another? Sorting that kind of like that shared services sort of thing. The same thing that you might be looking at once I retire, as far as hiring a full-time sanitarian to handle both towns at that point. It just makes it better for a lot more continuity. But for cost, I'm not sure at this point.
First off, Lori, bite your tongue about retiring. Stop that. Secondly, it is similar to the thing we do. It's similar to the thing we do with the school resource officer at Minichog, where we share a part of the cost with Wilbraham, and I could see, analysis like that, based on population, if you will.
Correct. Yep.
Right.
Our chief had a question.
Me?
Chief? Yeah.
One question I just wanted to make to the board, or maybe like a suggestion, is I know we don't have or haven't had any energy audits done on I know the fire station. The lighting up there is very old, out of power. That would be a little cost up front, but the savings in the future would be large, I think, after especially having people there weekly. The town hall as well, the highway department, even the senior centers aging. I think any kind of energy audit, whether it's lighting, insulation, heating, would be huge, valuable to the town to look into. And I think it would be a lot of savings in the longevity of that.
We did look into that in the past couple of years. The program that National Grid used to offer, they used to give you an 80-20 type thing. They would take 80% of the cost, you'd pay 20. It was a terrific savings. Pam was working with a company to look at the town hall. We looked at another company to look at the senior center. The firehouse, we had put that off because we were looking at basically the upgrade. And they weren't going to be interested in doing any work if we were going to be doing a pretty large upgrade to the structure as itself. So we have done this type of due diligence on that. We can certainly beat through the bushes again and see if there's anything out there. But we do have a couple of vendors that have been eager to do it, but the numbers they were proposing weren't like what we'd seen in the past. Where the payback period, the ROI, for instance, would be years.
Again, I don't know how long ago that was. LED fixtures have come down in price a long way. I think it's maybe worth an avenue of looking at.
Pam, I think we started that in 18, right? And we were getting proposals at the beginning of 19.
I'm waiting to hear back from Secure Energy. Those are the last people that I've dealt with, and it's taken a long time, but I haven't reached out to them recently, so I can do that.
And Prism had come back with the senior center, and again, the deal that, if you will, they were offering was nothing like they'd done. we've done 2 upgrades in the past to the senior center and to the town hall. Much better programs back in the past. But hey, if there's an opportunity, let's beat the bushes again.
Okay.
Well, I
Thanks,
think,
Ed.
I think the other point is, when is the time to do that? And it's certainly something to keep on the list of things that should be addressed, because if there's going to be savings, we should take advantage of that. On the other side of the coin, we're asking people to tighten their belts, and I'm not sure that this is the appropriate time to really get involved in that.
Mhm.
Right.
Thank you.
So Laurie,
Yep.
the public health nurse, the board will consider the documents we got today, and we'll put it on the agenda for the future.
And I'll come up with some better numbers so that we actually have some numbers to go by too. And then also, before I have to go, is I think you guys did ask for some information on what to do with the town hall if we go back
With
to
what?
work, and for
Yeah.
putting in some safety measures at the town hall for when the employees have to go back
Yeah.
to work. And of course, wearing masks would be the one thing. Whether we want to put up some kind of a barrier between the offices and where the public, so the public can't come all the way into an office. Maybe have like a drop down counter that's maybe attached to the wall, and just have it drop down so that they kind of stop at the door, and just have at least some kind of like a little tabletop that drops down. I don't know if you want to put up some kind of shields. It depends on how far into this that we are going, or how closely to now we plan on reopening and allowing the public to come in. I think as time goes on, things might be a little less than they are now. But I mean, I think as a minimum, we would be wearing masks, having the public, of course, wear masks. That's coming up as of Wednesday. And maybe also probably some kind of a shield or some kind of a barrier so that a person just can't walk right into an office without having some kind of a barrier.
Which I can expand on too. Yeah.
What was that, Jane?
I can expand on that as well. I would like to see double doors or Dutch doors. Maybe that the top opens, the bottom stops people from coming into your office. I mean, we have a lot of offices where people just feel free to walk right in. Whether you have a chain across it, whatever, which may be a temporary, okay, put a chain so that people can't come in. Eva's office had requested these guard so that people, I mean, there's all kinds of things that we can do. It's going to cost money. I don't know what to say.
Right. It's really a question when they open back up again. I'm working with Eva's office. We're making a plastic shield at my office for their public access area. That'll just give them a small opening underneath for papers. But again, and that's probably a prudent thing for the future anyhow. But with the other ones where you have open offices, it's really going to take some thought. Like Jane said, do you go with a Dutch door? Do you go with just basically you build a little counter in front that's as far up as you go?
Like an ironing board that drops down an inch. There's a lot of options, but we have to think about it sooner rather than later. When it opens, what are we going to do?
Sure.
In my former secretary's office had a wooden door, and they made a Dutch door out of it just by cutting it in half.
Right, but then
they cut and then they put a hook. They put like a lock from the inside. She could lock it closed or locked it open.
Yeah, but if you have,
it worked very well.
Yeah.
All right.
If what?
We've got that on the agenda for later on. So let's go back to the budget things. Stay back here. Okay.
You got it.
Is the building inspector? We have the building inspector.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
So it's basically a broken record with regards to what Becky and Jeff have stated and Mark, where our budget's been so lean. The only thing that really happened this year was the stormwater mandate and the increase in hours to do that. We could decrease the clerical portion of that, as that was in there just to kind of pad the work that she would be doing. But these stormwater permits are going to be related to every project that comes through, and even more. And it's, you know, there'll be record keeping and everything with regards to that as well. But obviously, if we trim and we take hours away, and that'll get us down to where we need to be. 5% of our budget would be about $5,000. And hopefully we would have more projects lined up, as there are still people waiting to do homes and solar farms. So that helps defray our budget.
So the advisory committee has asked about the stormwater portion. And I know we spoke, and I said that we could take the stormwater, reduce their budget by about $13,500. We kind of put it in the building department for some clerical and for the building inspectors, additional hours, and they were questioning that. And so, Wendell, do you think that, I mean, could we do anything with those hours there for you too? Or, I mean, I know I noticed when you gave us your update on things, you're out at the solar thing almost once a week to check out the stormwater, right?
That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Other communities have one person, and that's just their position. I'm kind of multitasking with the zoning and the stormwater designated agent portion of it. I actually didn't add all the hours that you recommended that I add to it, but I mean, I could try to do it. Obviously, you know, if we have to, like everybody else has said, we'll make cuts. But it's hard to do more work and, you know, try to jam it into where I'm at right now.
All right. How do you feel about being a fence viewer?
I get paid $5 a fence, so it seems like that job in Hampden, it used to be for keeping all your animals on your property. So I think, you know, and I don't want to nominate anybody, but I think John Flynn really is a professional. He's got a large knowledge of barbed wire. He's a cow guy. I'm going with John. Anybody?
Thanks, Opie.
They have surveys.
I don't see John jumping yet.
Right. Thanks.
Thanks, Opie.
Thanks, Opie. We have anyone else? Any other department heads there? How about the selectmen's budget? One of the things that the advisory committee was asking about was the expense account, the selectmen expenses. We reduced that by 5,000 already. It's at 20,000. We put in 20,000 this year. They were wondering if we could reduce it more.
I think what would help.
Also, they wanted to divide. They wanted to divide it up between selectmen's expenses and the town administrator's expenses.
Don,
Bob's expenses have been running wild.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Bob's been going crazy. Look at the decorations in his office. Don, what I think would help is if we had, like, from Jane or Pam and Cliff, a breakdown of what we spent it on in the past year, rather than just saying it's 20,000. Well, there was 5,000 for this, 1,400 for our membership to this, and then we could say, okay, left, right, put this here, put this there, and really detail it better. And then we what the 20,000 is for, rather than just a lump sum. Let's see what it's been expended on in the past year.
All right. Can you Pam, could you get that breakout?
Did I get a breakout? No, I don't have it, and I see Jane jumping at the bit to get in on this.
So if she could PDF that, send it out to us, and we can look that over for next
Yep.
week.
We can look
That
at
would-
that.
Yeah.
All right.
You're still raising your hand.
So next week we're meeting. So next week we're meeting with the advisory committee, and I would like to suggest that the board convene their meeting like a half hour before at 5:30, so we can get all those numbers together. We can all talk about what we learned tonight.
I think.
Is that all right?
Sure.
Don't forget about the library.
Yeah, getting there. Okay. Library, there you are.
Hi.
Hi.
We actually, excuse me, Ellen, we actually don't control the library budget. They report that directly to advisory.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I had missed something.
No.
Because I didn't know to be prepared with 5% cuts.
Yeah.
So.
And also you're obligated, and Beth is better at this than I am, but you're obligated for an increase on an annual basis to keep your state funding, I believe, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So do you want me to do a budget with a 5% decrease?
I think the problem would be that you lose more than 5%. If you decrease it, you're going to all of a sudden lose your state funding, and then you could be down even more. So I think I think that's something your board is going to have to decide on.
Well, you'd have to look into what the level is that it has to increase too. So you have to get more details on that, on the state funding, I think, before you can decrease, for sure.
Correct.
Right.
And there's going to be a lot going on with, waiting on the public in the library itself, just dealing with people coming in, and the state is coming up with all kinds of guidelines, but they just haven't made official rollout dates yet. They believe it's going to happen gradually, perhaps starting with curbside pickup and then going to having a certain number of people in the library at a time. But that's for another discussion. So
I have to take this opportunity, only because I see both Jane and Ellen on my screen. To keep these people out of the town hall, we would have to change the locks so the door shut. I see it all the time. Jane's there, Ellen's there, Eva's there, Pam's there. We can say the town hall's closed, and we got these people, Hobie, Dick, whatever. Without barricading them in their houses, they are at work. So this town is blessed by having them there, all the time, working for the town. And just a quick thank you. Nobody's going to see this but us. You guys deserve our thanks.
and Kate too, she's there a lot.
I know, Kate. So.
All right.
We love our jobs.
All right. Thank you. Do we have anyone else there, Bob?
No, but I have one item that we should certainly bring up with the advisory board, and that is the disagreement that our tree warden has as to police detail costs should be in his budget or whether they should be covered elsewhere. And so he has revised his budget to add $20,000 for police details. I think we need a decision on that, perhaps at our meeting next week.
Well,
where that funding.
If I can interject one thing. First off, he's also asking for another $100,000 for trees.
Yeah.
If we're not going to fund the trees, and I would say to the board, perhaps this is something of a fault. We don't need to fund $29,000 in police details as well. So I think right now both things are off the table.
Yeah.
The extra 100 plus the police traffic detail until the fall town meeting. And then we'll see because right now adding that $130,000 to the budget at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not easy. Another, just let me interject there that Senator Lesser's staff asked if we have any particular requests for budget earmarks. I mean, it's not even worth mentioning, but I did ask for an additional 100,000 for trees. I have no expectation at all that we'll get that money this year.
All right. The other thing, while we're on the tree warden, he had mentioned that his contract had never been executed, but it was.
Right. We
And,
brought that up a few meetings ago, I thought, Don.
Yeah. So,
what kind of?
so I'm going to send the copy over to. What?
Don, what kind of cough was that?
What kind of cough was that? That's if you want to know, as from a pharmacist, that's a side effect of taking lisinopril.
Okay.
For my blood pressure, which was fine until I got elected.
But I think your point is right. You and I discussed this tree warden thing, and I thought we had talked about that it was put aside during the change, if you will, and then we were going to go ahead and put another 3-year in place. We talked about this in the fall.
Well, he's got a signed contract from May of 2019 for 3 years.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So he's fine. Yeah, so he's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on the budget?
Well, I'm wondering for the advisory committee gave us the all those questions that are concerns that they had, and I'm wondering they were concerned, particularly the largest items that they were concerned about were on the police department, the town administrator's salary, were probably the two biggest. Have we had discussions on those, and or should we? And are we prepared to go back to them with a position on these issues?
Well, I don't know if the board's decided. As we said, we decided not to go out and look for a new town administrator. And then, Bob, you had mentioned that the state had enabled additional hours. So we can't keep you in if we wanted to go to more hours per week. But even if we did that, we were still inside our cap of 100K, right?
I mean, okay. Yeah, and I just said that it's probably wise to keep the salary in the budget as voted, because at some point you may decide to go out for a full-time person and you'll have the salary. If you take it out now, if you take, let's say, reduce it in half, and let's say, whatever, I get hit by a truck or whatever, and you have to go out for another administrator full-time, the money won't be there. So it really will restrict your discretion if you cut that salary in half.
Right.
Likewise with the benefits. As I told you in a message through email, I was shocked to find out that retirement is 34% of the salary in the town of Hampden. That's because the Hampden County Retirement Board is raising the assessment 8% plus per year.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot. But there again, if you may have at some point a full-time person and you're going to have to pay retirement, which you don't do for me. Likewise with health insurance. Keeping that money in the budget at least now gives you discretion. If you take it out, that would restrict what you can do. So
well, I responded to, I think I sent you all a copy of that. I responded to them that our intention was to keep that in for that very reason. That at some point we may decide to go for a full-time, and we may change, and then we would have the funds there, and it'd be a, as we know from the consultants, it's going to be even if we decide to do that, it'd be a 3 to 6 month process anyhow. So.
Well, I just thought we should bring it up at a selectmen's meeting that's being Zoomed, so for the public to have that information and know where we're going and what the explanation is going to be to the advisory committee. And their other question was about the police chief's salary. And they were concerned that they get a copy of his contract and all the different sources of income that he's getting from the town. So I assume you've done that, Don, but I just.
Yeah, I think they've got a copy of his contract. And, you know, part of it's from the Quinn bill incentive and part of it is from the emergency management, which he's been doing a lot of emergency managing with the
We had
pandemic.
one this week.
You know. All right. So I just want to clarify though, we'll meet next week at 5:30 so we could, you know, just be all on the same page when we talk to the advisory committee.
That sounds good.
Sounds fine.
Clarify some of these issues. So I want to move along now on the agenda to the fire chief resume review.
Mm-hmm.
And where are we there, folks?
Well, I looked at all the resumes. They were all, they all seemed qualified and were professionally done, I thought. And it would seem to me that we would just go forward and interview. Since there were only 4, that we could go forward and interview them in come June, when hopefully we are all sitting together. We had all of them had some experience, I think, from memory. All of them had some experience with the Hampden Fire Department at one time or another. And I think 3 of them live in Hampden. 2 of them in Hampden, 2 of them in Wolverhampton, maybe it was. But
One lives in Hampden.
is it? Oh, well, they list Hampden as their address. I don't know why. Oh, well, I don't know why he listed it as his address, actually. Okay. Okay. So maybe I could have misread
So
that.
it's good. So we're agreed we'll interview all 4 come June.
Or the first earliest opportunity. I think, you know, if things open
First
up, and we
earliest
can do
opportunity,
something. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right, go with that. The auxiliary police officers, I think we put that off to next week, Bob.
The chief is preparing some background information, which you've asked for, and he's also lining up the 3 candidates to come on to the meeting itself.
Okay.
If I could ask for this, and I think just bring this to Mary Ellen's point, if the chief could give a little synopsis of a reserve versus auxiliary, it might help. Mary Ellen, you may not be familiar.
That would be fabulous. I'd love it. I was going to say it, but I didn't want to have fire in them. Didn't think I'm getting on their case. And also the number of people that are in each position, I think, would be helpful. You know, how many auxiliary do we have? How many reserve do we have? How often do we use them? Things like that would be helpful.
Not a problem.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Mountain Road poll petition. Yes. What's that about?
Well, I can jump in. There were no abutters listed on the petition. And so it just seems like a pretty simple request. And you folks all have a copy of the map, I assume, I sent out. So it's a matter of you approving or not.
Any questions?
No, I walked up there. I actually took a walk up there the other day, and it's clearly just an opportunity for a support poll, and really no impact.
All right. Motion for approval then?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
That'll need a signature, Don, I believe.
Okay, so if someone can just put it in the box, let me know when it's there. I'll go down and sign it.
Okay.
Public health nurse, I think we've talked about that.
Correct.
Right? Minute taking software.
The minute taking software is being used currently for the first time, and I'll show you the results this week.
Good. Thank you.
It's verbatim voice recognition. It seems to work pretty well, and it's also coordinated with Zoom.
So would we have the ability to do it concurrently, because we have, for instance, the advisory is meeting right now? Would they be able to have Otter working for them at the same time we're working?
That's a good question. And I think the other issue is, can I set up, if I have a professional account, which is $9.95 a month,
Oh,
can I set up meetings?
Killing
for
us.
I know. What's 5% of that, Bob? Please.
I know.
25 cents.
You know, right now I set up the meetings for other boards with Zoom, with one account. Whether or not that can be done with Otter is not clear. I think what I'll have to do is try it. And so far, I think it does work. But you're asking if it works simultaneously, right?
Right.
I don't know the answer to that.
And with your Zoom Pro account, you're allowed to set up multiple meetings at the same time as well.
Yes.
Understood.
Yeah.
We're not talking huge money here. For the
No, we're
idea
not.
of
No.
transparency, it's money well spent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then once the minutes are taken, will they all be just posted online? Will they would be very lengthy, I would think.
I'm sure they are going to be very lengthy.
Yeah.
It's a verbatim of the meeting. And we certainly could post them on the website. Let me get.
We have to get more information on how it'll work out. You know, I think because you want something that people will read if it's going to be on the website, you know, and they're not going to read an hour and a half of minutes. So
no, probably not.
So then what do you have to do? And do they will they give a condensed version, or they don't do that? We'd have to do that on the top of it, or I don't know. I think we need a little more information.
Well, I think
I'll give you what we have this week.
What your experience is, yeah.
From tonight, and you can decide whether you want to just post it verbatim or not. But I think you're right. Anyone who would have an hour and a half to read
might as well come to the meeting.
minutes needs to get a life, I think.
We got to get them a social life is what we got to do.
That's right. Or we could, we could try to have the verbatim minutes and then try and reduce them somehow, have Pam reduce.
Or whether the verbatim ones would just be on file and whatever, or whether they'll give us a reduced version. So I don't know, but it's something to look into.
Well, I think reviewing them first, like I say, you've got your trial run tonight. Get them out to the board whenever they're done this week.
Yes.
Bob, your suggestion before about our meeting should be pay-per-view. It's a great idea, but I don't think people are really going to sign
it. Yeah, right.
So.
All right.
Our meetings, though, do eventually go to YouTube, and I watched the last week's meeting on the TV over YouTube.
We got to get you a social life.
I need to get a life too, don't I? Yeah. Okay.
All right. The A&R proposal for the landfill.
Some discrepancy.
Some misunderstanding. Yeah.
Right. Originally, there were 3 parcels in the landfill, 85, 86, 87. And I think I sent a copy of the minutes. The planning board took action a couple of years ago and combined the parcel 87 and 86, which are the closest ones to Cross Road, into one parcel. And now that new merged parcel needs to be combined with the back parcel, which is also classified as landfill land by DEP. So it qualifies for that high number for subsidization by the state.
Yep.
So that's it. Now they're down to 2 parcels to merge together, kind of like the blobs on a piece of glass, if you will.
Right.
You know,
2 bids have been requested, and I don't have them yet.
Right.
Okay. The reopening of the town hall. We've had a little bit of discussion on this. You know, I think they're right about the shields, particularly in the clerk's office where you have a lot of business transacted, the library, the public health office probably, you know, I don't know. So if they have to figure out something there. And also, would we be responsible as employers to providing, you know, masks for the employees and sanitizer and that kind of stuff? And would we get reimbursed under some kind of COVID legislation or reimbursement. You know?
I did
And I
ask the
imagine
chief
we're
if he
waiting
had
for-
masks for us. And he said he has a limited supply of masks. A couple of options there. We do have hand sanitizer at the entrance to the building with a message for everyone coming in to use it. We could return to town hall the same way we left it in 2 stages. First stage would just allow town employees, maybe on a staggered basis, maybe certain employees on certain days and so forth. And then as that becomes familiar and seems to work okay, we could allow the public in, especially if we have these barriers to prevent people coming in and not observing social distancing. We can't do it until the governor lifts the lockdown anyway.
Yeah.
And what's the date for that?
The
17th? Is the date for the lockdown the 17th, May 17th?
I thought it was the 18th, but
it's, And then we have to think about, and we've talked a little bit, there's been some exchange between the town moderator and Eva and others about the town election and the town meeting, if it was would happen after. The Senate passed some legislation today regarding quorums at town meetings.
Yes.
And so we'll have to look and see what that is.
Yeah, our quorum is pretty minimal right now with 50, so I think they went to a 1/10, and I think we'd be hard pressed to have a town meeting with 5 people. Pretty much the board consists of the town meeting. One thing that's a concern right now, and it really isn't a topic for the board, but Jim Smith and I are working with Eva on the party caucuses, which are required to be X number of days before the town elections. Unfortunately, those dates are inside the governor's order. They're the 14th and 15th of May. So we're trying to figure out some way that, hey, can we still have the caucus? Or is there some type of enabling legislation that the board can file for, or that allows outdoor, or just pretty much everybody who submitted a paper is automatically on the ballot? Extraordinary times might need extraordinary measures. And you know that there's 7 people running for dog catchers, so we need to make sure they all get represented.
And you need to make a decision within the next couple of weeks on whether or not to issue the warrant. Because if you are going to issue it for June, well, time is approaching. If you're going to delay until the fall, then it doesn't make a difference.
I think from what Don said before, we're pretty good with the warrant. We got the boilerplate things on. And I think we could close the warrant within 2 or 3 weeks, Don. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think we're good. And
yeah,
I think if we, if we move, the one question I do have though is about the stormwater bylaw. We have to determine if they're going to go with that this time, because they would have to have a public hearing. It's got to be advertised 2 weeks before. So it's got to be before the advisory committee hearing. So we're talking probably end of May that would have to be done.
Right.
So we should clear that up with Gary.
Is it really needed, or could it be?
That's what I thought. Is it really needed?
Yeah, can it be put off till?
Right.
Probably can. I just have a placeholder on the warrant.
Yeah.
It can be easily removed.
Yeah,
I think
they would have to have. That has to be advertised 2 weeks in a row. It has to be held a certain time. So.
And I think by the fact that you have to have a public hearing by the planning board, really kind of restricts your options right there. So yeah.
So we may have to put that off too. All right. So the highway garage expansion plan.
Moving along.
Mark is here. Let me unmute him. Okay, Mark.
Expansion plan. That's not Mark.
Where's Mark?
He's right there.
Hello? Okay.
There he is.
Yes. So last week I did receive the preliminary plans from Architectural Insights, and then also I had a visit from one of their plumbing engineers just to go over some questions that they had. So basically, I forwarded the plans to Bob and to the board. The only difference with what you may see on the plans as to what I talked about with the engineer was to use propane-fired ceiling hung units in those bays, tap off of the existing 1,000-gallon propane tank we have in the back for our generator. It'll be cleaner, it'll be cheaper, more efficient. And he was excited to see that we had that option. So he was going to make a recommendation to just make that change. But I just wanted to forward those plans for comment and review to Bob and the board. And they're expecting an answer back. They'll go ahead with the final set of plans and also a package together so we could get invitation to bid out. So that's where we stand on that right now. Just trying to think if there was there was no other major changes as far as electrical and plumbing. So we'll just go with that.
Mark, while I got you here, one thing I wanted to ask you is we talked about the replacement of one of the sanders, and I think the board had agreed that it would come out of snow and ice. Is that moving along? There was that really rusted one.
It is not, but I can make that come along.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was pretty minimal cost that buys extra years on the truck pretty much.
Okay.
And let's put off replacement of the truck for a number of years because that's the only part that really starts deteriorating.
Yes, we do have one that's in very rough shape, and to replace it with a stainless steel one would be great.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that we talked about, that comes out of snow and ice. It doesn't come out of the regular budget because it's strictly used just for snow and ice. And in the past, that's how we've done it. Fortunately, this year, as Cliff has said, been a pretty soft year. I think it's May. It's beginning of May. I know it's New England, but I don't think we're going to see another storm.
I think we're good.
Hope not.
Don't be too confident.
All right.
Don will stop at the shrine and light a candle just to be sure. But
Yeah. Can't get in the shrine.
Sorry, it's closed.
All right. Anything else on the expansion?
No, basically, I'll just wait for an answer from the board or from Bob, and I can get in touch with Larry, let him know that, whatever the comments or questions might be, I can be the middleman there and set that up. Or if we're all set, then I can just let them know that we're ready for a package so we can get this out to bid.
All right. Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board? All right, the Memorial Day.
Mr. Heath is here.
All right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So Heath, what's your thinking on Memorial Day?
We are, for the safety and of the people of the town, we're going to cancel the parade. Okay. I don't want to, but it seems like that's the more prudent way to go right now. Mm-hmm. I know that the governor's talking about opening up on the 18th. I don't think that's going to be opening up to having parades. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to be a very slow opening. Mm-hmm. So we are going to cancel the parade and then plan for a bigger, better one for 21.
All right.
Okay.
I know that I talked to some of the members of the Post over the past couple of days, and we're going to do a small memorial service down at the Post by the flag, where we're going to render our respects through our ceremony. And then we're still going to follow the social distancing guidelines and all that. But it's going to be a very small group of us down there for that.
And Heath, and the flags will be placed on the graves?
Yes. We are, my quartermaster is going to be picking those flags up tomorrow, I think. And then myself and Mr. Talbot are going to go around and place the flags.
Right. And the highway department, John, is Mark still at the highway department? Will put the flags on the poles still?
Mhm.
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had every intention of still placing the flags on the poles, you know, on the parade route, and then also the 3 flags down at the town common. I still, you know, had plans to do that for the holiday anyway.
All right, good.
Yep.
All right. Well, it's to say it's sad that it's going to be canceled, but it's probably a wise decision. You know.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy to make that decision because I know a lot of people are looking forward to not only the parade but also the hot dog social afterwards at the fire department. So we're hoping for next year doing something and making it a bigger and better parade.
Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you for all your efforts on behalf of the veterans. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, thanks, Heath. Town administrators report.
Okay. Here you see it.
All right, I can expand this.
There we go.
There you go.
I have applied for, let's see, yeah. I've applied for a community compact grant to install ClearGov and also for the HR function. The ClearGov request is for $7,300 and the Collins Institute's asking for $17,000 to do the full study that we need, obviously including job descriptions, classification, compensation. This would be a grant from the Commonwealth. There's no obligation or cost or even match required of the town. So if we get it, we can get the essential HR work done without cost to the town, and it'll be done professionally. I have requested standard contracts from McNamara Hauling and from Action Ambulance. Something came in late this afternoon from McNamara. I do not have a contract yet with Action, but obviously July 1 is coming and we need to get those in place. I did complete the town administrator's section of the annual report. We placed an ad for a part-time conservation agent, placed it on the MMA website. I have 1 submission so far. We scheduled the presentation for May 18th for the proposal for a tip project at the intersection of East Long Meadow, Summers Road, and Wilbraham Road. That'll be presented by Fussin O'Neill. I've asked for a report from the school superintendent on school system savings as a result of the COVID-19 closing. I don't have a response yet. We did, as I mentioned earlier, what?
I think I forwarded everyone something that Maura Ryan sent me, school committee.
Yes.
I don't have
See
that.
No,
I got
didn't. I didn't get it.
John, you get it?
I believe so.
Does that answer the questions?
All right.
No, it was just, it raised the same questions.
It raised questions.
No, it doesn't. You're right. But anyhow, I'll send it to you again. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. You know, we've contacted Smith Associates and Sherman and Frederick for quotes on the landfill parcel merger. Now, I did report to you last week that in a conversation with the town administrator in Wilbraham, they are asking the town of Hampden to present some cost estimates to make the connection, and to make the transfer, merge the CAD systems and so forth. I spoke with the chief. I don't know if he's still on, but he's suggesting that we need to hire someone to do that, which is the way that Westcom did that, and that he is not really capable of making decisions on costs. My question to the board is, should we do that?
But we don't have a cost.
Can Marcus do it?
Can Marcus do it?
What would be, yeah.
We can find
Well,
out. It's not just the radio system, though. It would be, the merging of the CAD systems and so forth. We also would need.
But didn't we? I thought we. What that?
We need a fiber connection to.
What's what they need?
Yeah.
And the same thing would be with Ludlow too, though, right?
Right.
Exactly.
We would need those connections.
Yes. The next item is Ludlow. I did follow up with 3 calls to try and see if what interest they might have. Selectman DeBarge did call me back today, and he said they are just at the point of beginning discussions on their side. And so he said he would like to have a chance to discuss this with his board, and they will contact us. Obviously, there's some technical issues there as well. So, if first of all, I don't think we have any time pressure here for either community. I think we can probably wait and see, in the case of Ludlow, how much interest they have. I know that the Wilbraham board discussed this matter twice, and their conclusion was ask the town of Hampden for numbers. So I don't think they're going to go any further until we present them with something.
And Bob, go ahead.
You go.
You had said that the head of dispatch had expressed some interest in Wilbraham as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It would seem to me that if Wilbraham wants a financial analysis, that they would hire a consultant to do that, because the arrangement is going to be in their financial best interest. Number one, it is, and it will give Wilbraham more information so they can make a responsible decision. Supposedly, I'm concerned that we are in no rush to do any of this, number one. Number two, that we should investigate all options that are available to us. Palmer has a new police dispatch system. Munson is no longer has theirs, so they're going to Westcom. Sturbridge uses the state police. So there are options around, it seems to me, that we should be looking at everything. Wilbraham does not have an inside track here. And really, I think Wilbraham's incentive to do anything with us is that they have financial need to increase revenue in their town because they are so close to the levy limit and having financial problems. So I think we have to be very cautious about what we do with this. And I would agree that there is absolutely no rush.
Okay, I have to say again,
John, you were going to say
a couple weeks ago, that I'm not sensing any enthusiasm in Wilbraham.
Okay.
I mean, the town administrator is very cooperative, and certainly shares all the information, but I think we're not getting a degree of interest or enthusiasm from members of the board. But I think we're in no hurry, but at some point, we're going to have to present them with numbers for them to move ahead with a decision.
Okay. So do we have a sense of, when you talk about this consultant, do we have a sense of who we can get for a consultant, what kind of numbers we're talking about, to at least, like Mary Ellen said, we should investigate every option and cross it off if it doesn't work out. But we need somebody to help us with that. So who can we find out to help us with at least that part?
The one thought I had is that I should call again the state 9/11 office and ask if they will provide some support, either technical support or financial support to do this evaluation. I mean, given their interest, given
That's a good idea.
Commonwealth's interest in seeing.
Also, I would be interested in their future plans for Westcom and for the 911 system in general. Where are they going with this down the road? Is this offer that they made last year going to be in existence in the foreseeable future? Is it not? Is it going to be increased? You know, where do they see 9/11 going in general?
Okay. Well, I'll pursue that. Let everyone know next week.
Okay.
That's the report, Mr. Chairman. We are doing the department's meeting on Wednesday of this week.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Would you mind, Bob, sending out that Zoom information to our board as well, just in case? Since it's a meeting where we're just getting information, it doesn't require posting. We can just Zoom in and listen.
Correct.
Secondly,
Also, there's an emergency management committee meeting on Thursday as well.
Read that as well.
Make sure the board has the code for both of those meetings.
Okay.
Want to sign on.
All right. Anything else to come for the board?
Yes.
Jane has something.
PM does. Okay. Oh gosh, where do I start? The town hall opening. Bob's laughing already. The the town hall opening. Yeah. I have a million thoughts. French doors. Where I mean, really, we have to think about it.
Okay.
Jane,
Jane, if I could jump in, I think this is a perfect time, but I'd like to bring the rest of, like, if you're going to talk about it, Eva should talk about it, like the assessors to talk about it, Parks and Rec, and I think, Don, I would maybe propose like almost a separate meeting of the town offices to talk about this.
Yeah.
Really,
and I
it's
think
not-
we need, and I think we also need to see what kind of guidance we're going to get from the state, how they want to do this, you know? I'm sure other towns are facing the same thing, so.
And it's not just us as well. Let's talk about the senior center. I mean, they
Yeah.
should be bound by the same thing. I mean, look at their interaction. So, you know, definitely, and Becky has stepped off, but again, gosh, just as dangerous over there. So they should definitely be part of the conversation.
all of us. Agreed.
Keeping social distance in some of our offices at Town Hall will be more difficult in some offices than others. In the case of the town administrator's office, I think turning a few chairs right next to the table there, people aren't going to leap over the chairs, and they'll understand that, you know, that's as close as they should get. I think that works in a couple of other offices. It doesn't work in the clerk's office.
And it's not going to work for the Board of Health when all the separate
No.
patients
That's right.
come in, et cetera. Sure.
But
Right.
a board would work for every office,
Mhm.
not a French door, a Dutch store.
Mhm.
Work in every office.
And that's just the offices. And then
Yeah.
then go to the library. I mean, how does the library function with that type of social distance? It doesn't, okay, one person to get a book. Okay, you got your book, thank you. Next.
Gloves, where's your mask? Starting Wednesday, we
Right.
can enforce.
Ooh, and did somebody else touch that book? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to clean it. Seriously, Ellen, I mean, you have a state organization. I'm sure they're giving you some kind of guidance as well. So,
It's scary and crazy, and we have to all sit down and talk about our fears, what are our thoughts.
Mhm.
I agree, Don.
maybe Bob, an opportunity to start this discussion at your meeting on Wednesday with an eye towards the board would like to have, Donna, I mean, speak for, the board would like to have
Ideas.
stakeholders in a discussion going forward with state guidance, basically. But give them a little heads up, if you will.
Okay, then I got budget.
Something else? Seriously?
Okay, heart on my sleeve. You know, I always go to fire me, and you know that will save some money.
Mr. Chairman, move to adjourn.
Stop. But that's my thoughts. Like,
You're not
okay.
gonna get out. You're not gonna get out that easy.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks a lot, Don. But okay, but it can be done. Can be done. And then there's the whole postage. You can cut on that. You can cut on town administrator or selectmen expenses.
But that goes back, you're right, and that goes back to what I said before. Provide the board with a little more detail of, you know, when you have this account of, look at postage, 17,000, what are we spending, who's spending it? And really the bulk of it probably comes out of tax bills and really where are we going? So I think we get more detailed analysis, it's gonna help.
And I think it's important that the cuts come from the departments up. You know, they know what they're doing. You know what you're doing in your department. You know what the postage is or what the this is. And that's what we're just asking people to do is look closely at every penny that you're spending and justify it and say, this is where it has to happen, or this is where we can make a cut. And I think that's a good exercise. We should do it more often. So
Mary Ellen, but I would start with my salary because that's the way I am. I know that, you know, 4 more hours for me. Cut it. I don't need it.
I would, seriously, Jane, I would rather cut our salaries out than get rid of you. So,
no,
you know.
No, she's just cutting her increase.
No, I would cut anything to make sure that the town is okay. You know that. I will let you know that.
No, every person in the town hall is valuable and no increase in them. Thank you, Jane, for offering.
Right.
But I move to adjourn. I don't mean, no, Jane, I didn't give you short shrift. I know you would do, probably every other town employee on this broadcast would do the same thing. But we respect you too much, all of you. And I thank you for the offer.
We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Jane.
Everyone. Thank you, Pam.
Good night, all.
Yep. Talk later.
Are we out of here?